thanks very much, and pleasure to be hosting today's webinar. And today I'm going to be talking about how CRM, AI, and sales technology can help HVACR distributors, just like yours, attract, train, and retain talent, particularly on the sales team. It's a challenge that we've seen across the board with many of our HVACR customers. Sales reps are hard to come by, really good talent. It's not particularly glamorous industry. There's a lot of competition. And so how do we do all of the above to make sure that our sales team is full of A players? So let's jump straight in then and talk a little bit about the agenda. We've already gone through some housekeeping. Today's session is going to be roughly 30 minutes of presentation. And throughout the course of that, I'm going to be talking about some global holistic challenges that HVAC distributors are facing, particularly within the workforce. I'll use a lot of data to support some of the trends that we're seeing. I'll talk about CRM and sales technology, including artificial intelligence, how we at WebPresented and how the industry in general is using technology to solve some of the challenges within the workforce. And then I'll get into a little bit of a demonstration on specifically how we can help the next generation of sales talent become successful using technology, particularly out in the field as they're selling HVACR goods to other businesses. At the end, we'll have time for Q&A. And any other takeaways. So if you do have a question, please feel free to enter it into the chat and we'll address any questions as they come up later on at the end of the session. So very quickly about me, you probably picked up that even though I live in Columbus, Ohio, that's not my hometown, originally from the UK. I've been working in CRM and distribution-focused software for 20 years. Prior to founding WebPresented, I worked for a large global ERP platform that wholly focused on distribution companies. I've been passionate and working in technology specifically for distributors for last 20 years and dedicated my whole last 20 years of my professional career to doing so. In my spare time, I coach high school soccer, or football as I call it, and then have been dubbed the kind of reverse Ted Lasso, if you like, a British guy coaching soccer over here in Ohio. About WebPresented, like I mentioned, we founded the company in 2012. Founded the company because there weren't any really high-end, easy-to-use sales enablement or CRM platforms that were specifically catered towards distribution companies. A lot of companies use products like Salesforce or Microsoft CRM, and what we found was there's a huge gap there. They weren't simple to use. They didn't provide value to the salesperson. They really weren't adopted at all. So we thought, what if we built a CRM specifically for distribution companies with integrations into their back-end business systems to make the lives of their the days in the lives of their salespeople better, more effective, more impactful, and easier to use. Over the course of that time, we've grown incredibly. We've been 4 years in a row on Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies. We have over 40,000 salespeople using our platform on a day-to-day basis, including many, many well-known HVACR distributors, like you can see over on the right-hand side. So in short, we know a thing or two about distribution. We know HVAC, we know the industry. We know what works and what doesn't work when it comes to engaging, motivating, and setting up a sales team for success. So let's talk a little bit about industry-specific challenges and what the current workforce is seeing in terms of trends within wholesale distribution within HVACR. So the reality is that as we've seen, one of the biggest challenges is retaining sales talent. And specifically, why that's important is that there's a generational shift. Currently, distributors are focused on the fact that their sales team are reaching that age of retirement, and there's a new breed of younger, different demographic salespeople coming in, and it's much harder to fill those gaps where the older crowd have built up many, many years and decades of relationships. And so how do we get those new hires up to speed quickly and efficiently. As you can see here on the right, the orange line shows the average age of a outside sales rep across all industries, any type of industry. But the blue line shows specifically within wholesale distribution. You can see there's a market shift where historically, 15 years ago, there was a much older guard, older folks in sales that manage those relationships. That number is coming down much more in line with standard across other industries. So what does that mean to distributors? It means that we have to now start accommodating a turnover, understanding what the needs, understanding what motivates a younger demographic of seller, and understand how to motivate and incentivize those sellers. What we can tell you is some generalities around that is the younger generation of seller aren't so much interested in privacy or hoarding data, whereas the old guard might be afraid that, Big Brother watching them, they don't want to share their secrets, they're keeping it very closely guarded. What we've seen is a younger generation of seller is much more open to putting their information out there in return for the data and insights and technology that's going to help them be more successful. And we'll get to that point much more as we go forward. Now let's talk a little bit about the day in the life of that sales rep. So obviously there's a lot of different components to doing the job of an outside sales. I won't read them all off, but you can see here it's a mass sort of cloud or scramble of activities, from prospecting new business to managing existing customers, managing specific opportunities, creating quotes, being reactive and proactive, as well as things like pricing, admin, account management, rebates, trade shows, territory planning, things like that. So the big question that comes to a salesperson is, what specifically should I do with the 8 or however many hours in any given day that I have? And not only what should I do, but what should I do first? Because most outside salespeople at a distribution company, specifically with HVACR, run a book of about 30 to 80 customers that are assigned accounts. That's their territory. But it's not always the biggest customer that they need to be focused on. They need a way of helping them understand, using data and even using AI, which customers should I focus on today? How can I proactively reach out to customers just when they need them, not just simply because it's Monday I go north, Tuesday I go east. I want to be more scientific and prescriptive in how I reach those customers. What we've also seen is roughly any given salesperson, round about only 41% of their time is actually spent selling. So you think about sales reps being a very expensive resource for your team. If they're only spending 41% of the time actually doing the face-to-face selling, and the remaining 59% is spent doing these other superfluous tasks, you can see what a lack of efficiency there is within the sales organization. So not only do we look for a software that helps to ramp salespeople up, but we also want to make them more effective and more efficient, so you can effectively use less sellers with the same number of accounts. And of course, reduce the amount of admin time spent doing admin time, so that we can spend more time doing revenue generating work. So as you can see, I went back to that list and I've highlighted some areas in purple, these tasks that can be improved or streamlined using AI or using technology. And that's what I'm going to jump into today. So all of the areas in purple are areas that we can help salespeople not only get up to speed quicker, but become more efficient and more effective in what they do. And as we know, a younger sales team, they're motivated by technology. They want to see a shiny app on their phone that's going to help them do their job. So the task in hand becomes, how do we present technology to these sellers and to make their time more effective, more efficient, and more prescriptive. There's also the concept of missed opportunities as well. So for example, a lot of salespeople, like I mentioned, they might have a large book of business. They're only focusing on a relatively small share of their accounts, which means that there's areas for growth within other accounts that could really be improved and taken advantage of. So without the access to data and tools, we can really see a challenge in making the most of their book of business. There's a small statistic here that as many as 79% of marketing leads never really receive the follow-up from sales that they need. So those opportunities are falling through the cracks, and that's due to lack of efficiency, lack of motivation, lack of sellers really feeling empowered and enabled to follow up and chase down every single opportunity and activity. So let's go into the solution and how can CRM and artificial intelligence help with this? Well, the first things first is connectivity to back-end data systems. And I mentioned at the beginning that WebPresented connects natively with all these different back-end systems. And there's just a graphic to highlight some of the different areas that WebPresented connects with. So we might connect with your ERP system, as well as a Google Maps, as well as the ability to look at your e-commerce website, marketing engines, other different systems that can feed data into the CRM platform, so that now as a sales rep, I only have one pane of glass that I need to look at. And that is a huge time savings. So we don't have to switch between different systems. I can get all of my information on my phone and take action on that information at the same time. So if everyone's looking at the same data in real time, then of course that makes it much more efficient and effective to be able to take action and make informed decisions. Let's talk a little bit about onboarding and ramp-up time. So using a really smart and intelligent CRM platform, we have the ability to educate a salesperson. It's not just a one-way application that's asking for data. We provide immediate access to customer data, pricing, insights, and sales history. And I'll show you this in a moment. So not only does the CRM show data, but it also can be configured to mirror your internal sales processes and even the terminology, the language you use. So you have a consistent, reliable playbook from which to work upon. So if I jump across real quick, I'm just going to show you a little bit of an example of this in action. So as a salesperson, I'm logging in here. I'm looking at my list of customers. You'll notice immediately each customer is designated a health score. And health score is basically a blend of different metrics that help me understand what is the general health or general vitality of this customer. And generally, if a salesperson can see all of their customers and see what the general health is, it makes it easy for them to start honing in on the exceptions or the items that require attention. So as I can see here from a sales rep, I'm looking at this first account, Axiom Electric. It's got a pretty low health score. Let's jump in, and it's changed to 1.2 here. Let's jump in and see some of the insights that we can get using typical data that help us to understand why this customer is in need of some attention. So again, jumping into the account basis, I can see that this customer is in pretty poor health. So despite the sales going down significantly year over year, we can actually track the velocity or the rate of change of sale. So for example, within 30 days compared to 90 days, compared to 180 days, this customer's sales are declining pretty rapidly. So again, as a seller, I'm going to use that information to understand the general trends of my customer so I can start taking actions and address any issues that might be there. Again, using data to drive decisions. And I can also see here what we call the frequency metric that shows us that, typically this customer orders on a very cyclical basis, but it's 3 days overdue. Its next order, its expected reorder, is 3 days overdue. So there could be some major issues going on here. So that's when we start drilling into the customer. I'm going to look at any notes or activities. I'm going to look at open opportunities, any open orders that we might currently have. I can also see when we're next planned to have a meeting with this particular customer. So all of those third-party systems are coming together to give me one single dashboard for a specific customer. If I drill into some of the insights, again, data can help me understand the general landscape or the footprint of a customer. I can see this is a pretty big customer. They're in the top 10% of all customers, but maybe there's an issue of loyalty here, and they're a medium risk of losing this customer. How do we track that? Well, we can see, for example, what's the regularity of order? What's the share of wallet? Meaning for other similar lookalike customers, they typically got a large spend of different products. This particular customer we're only getting 55% of all the products that we believe we should be getting from this particular customer. I can track into things like the profitability of this customer, what level of discounts have we applied to them, as well as the general cost to serve. Is this the type of customer that is giving lots of sort of onesie-twosie orders, or is this, in this case, typically batching up their orders into a large amount, which puts them in a healthy place? So in other words, it's a low cost to serve, so they're scoring well. Their quotes, what's the conversion rate of all of their quotes? So are they one of those customers that fishes out quotes a long time, or are they one that we typically get a good close rate on? So again, using these types of metrics, along with something like this AI summary, we can start putting words to some of the data points that we see. So for example, while the order regularity is strong, this is a medium attrition risk customer. So we need to start exploring some opportunities around pricing, or maybe some key products to offer some value-added services here. So again, using some insights to start providing prescriptive help to new sellers so they can get up to speed and start making smart decisions without having to rely on years upon years of relationships like historically we have done. All right, let's talk a little bit about generative AI. So with WPCRM, we have the ability to not only look at that type of data, but also to be able to generate reports and PowerPoint slides or email content immediately using Gen AI. So you've all heard of ChatGPT, obviously. WebPresented uses similar large language models in the background to start generating content. In this particular case, you can see here a PowerPoint report that's a business review for a specific customer. This is something that I would share with the customer, and it would allow me to be able to present a chart or an activity or a series of graphs to the customer to help me sell or understand trends and have conversations with that customer. I can also create emails immediately using generative AI, as well as be able to reinforce sales processes and help guide sales reps to use performance type data to help them. So for example, if I jump over to a specific customer, you can see here that we have the ability to, let's go to a specific customer here. I'll go to Transcend Technology, and I have the ability to generate those types of reports. So if I go to, for example, to the business review report for the last 12 months, I'm going to have the ability to now, within just a couple of seconds, to be able to generate a report that I can now share with my customer that uses AI to analyze the sales trends within this specific customer and use those sales trends to generate nice looking charts or graphs or reports that this customer would then be able to take away and use as the basis of an initial discussion with that customer. So if I go over to my PowerPoint that's recently generated, you'll see here that I have to switch over real quick to present that to you, but you'll see here that I have the ability to, sorry, one moment, the ability to open up that PowerPoint and see it. Let me see where it is. It's downloaded yet, but basically show a PowerPoint slide that's automatically generated for this customer that shows trends and graphs and charts that acts as a business review report for that specific customer. And I'll come back to that one in a moment. Okay, so then again, talking about generating reports with a single click, it allows me to be very, very efficient as I go through my sales process and start analyzing customer usage and understanding, and be able to generate things like what we call customer stoppage reports or recommended activities for a specific customer. And so here we go. Here's our report, just finished downloading. So I'll be able to go in specifically to this customer and look, for example, at the analytics and be able to share these customers, share these pieces of data with the specific customer to be able to get them to understand what their general sales are year over year. I can drill in and see, for example, by month, I can see what their sales are, what their fluctuations are, as well as what products they should be buying or what products they're not buying as well. There's also a good amount of automation built into the CRM platform. So for example, when an opportunity changes stage, maybe I want to automatically send an email communication. Here's an example where we're automatically sending out notifications to customers when their AR balances are past a given threshold. So again, automating those customer communications with the CRM makes it extremely easy to save time. We can do follow-ups, we can track quotes, we can understand when quotes are converted to orders, etc. And it frees us up to really, really focus on selling. And again, the more time available to the salesperson, the more revenue is available for them to bring in as well. So again, let's talk a little bit about retaining next generation of talent. We talked about that new demographic being very interested in technology, wanting gadgets and bells and whistles. And that's where WebPresented has built a new concept of mobile application. And it's what we call Playmaker. And basically, it is highly appealing to salespeople. It's mobile, so it's on the go. It uses typical scrolling type functionality, and it really encourages better engagement from the sales reps. We've seen that 79% of early career workers, so folks that are new in the field, are very excited about AI and want to incorporate it as part of their role. So if I jump over and I just quickly show you my mobile device. So this is my phone, and it's using WPCRM. As a seller, I'm going to go ahead and click on this Playmaker tool. It says time to play. And what Playmaker is going to do is going to provide me with insights or suggestions of activities that I might want to do for my customers. So for example, here is a customer of mine, American Roadway Systems, that has an overdue order. They last ordered 2 months ago. Typically, they order every 12 days. So they're 45 days behind with their order. So as a sales rep, as I've got a little bit of time in my day, I can simply choose to swipe this and reject that or accept it. So if I swipe to the left, that's going to add that to my to-do list. And now I've got a very targeted activity that's going to hopefully generate some revenue for my customer. Here's a product that we believe there's a good cross-sell opportunity for a given customer. This customer, because they're buying similar types of products, they're not buying any of this adhesive mist from us. This could be a great way to start a conversation. So maybe I want to add this to my queue as well. Here's what we call a share of wallet opportunity. So we know, for example, that this customer is buying a lot of certain types of product categories, and other similar lookalike customers are buying other cross-sell related types of product categories. We can start recommending sellers purchase given product categories based on other trends within other similar customers and similar industries. So for example, in this case, we would expect this customer to be spending 16% of their spend on processes, but actually they're spending nothing. So there's obviously a gap here. They're probably buying that category from somebody else. So there's a great opportunity here for us to go ahead and add that to our queue. And then finally, here's a quote that was sent 82 days ago. It was not yet converted to an order. So we know here that there's a potential for closing out a quote that customers asked for. This customer's got a historically pretty good win rate. So again, we can take action on this. We can start automating some of the process and even generating a follow-up email with a single click or a single swipe to actually generate an email that's going to go out to the customer. And now it's gone out and it's gone ahead and sent that customer the email, or it's drafted up an email to send to the customer that to follow up on that particular quote. So a lot of automation, a lot of activity going on that uses AI. It gamifies the process by making it very easy to use and swipeable. And that really, really appeals to that newer generation of sales talent. Again, using types of actions that I just showed you, We have the ability to swipe, and this can go for follow-ups, cross-sell, customer churn risks, but it helps them focus on the most valuable activities within their customer base. It reduces the guesswork, improves their confidence, and improves their likelihood of close. And again, what we've seen is in order to drive adoption of a CRM, we're not just doing activity tracking, we're really doing more proactive insights to the sales rep so that they can really see what the personal benefit is to them. Again, it attracts the talent and it keeps them around because it helps them, sets them up for success. And in one study, it's shown that when sales reps are engaged with the CRM, can actually improve their productivity as much as 34%. So it can take that 41% and basically add another third of that. So over 50% of their time is now spent selling versus doing admin type tasks. So to wrap things up, I just want to show you a quick some statistics from WebPresented. Like I said, we've been doing this for many, many years. We know what works, we know what doesn't work. We understand how challenging it is to successfully implement a CRM platform. So just a few anecdotes from some of our customers in the HVACR space. Here's one from First Supply, where they really have seen a massive increase in the amount of opportunities and quotes that were won since using WPCRM. And it really is a game changer for the sales team. This is a large distributor of heating, cooling products. Another one where they use our Playmaker and suggested products and really help salespeople become engaged. They absolutely love the platform, and it fosters that commitment and that engagement with the CRM platform. Okay, I know I went through a lot of content today. We're about 30 minutes in, so we do have a little bit of time left if there are questions. I'll turn it back over to folks at HARDI to see if there were any questions, or Julie on our team, if there's any questions from any of the attendees today.
Yep, we got a few here, and as we're going through them, feel free to drop in any more questions in the Q&A feature in the chat, and we'll look to get those answered. All right, so first one for you. Are there specific features in WPCRM that help sales managers better monitor rep performance and coaching opportunities?
So for a sales manager versus a sales rep. Yeah, so mostly I focus today on sales reps. Certainly our sales management reports. What I'll say is that our core focus of WPCRM is helping the sales rep. If you can't help the sales rep be successful, then there's really no data for a manager to look at. We do have a series of many dashboards that point to, certainly that point to how sales reps are tracking the levels of activities, their performance, much like reports that you would have, sales reports, opportunity tracking reports. So an awful lot of those types of management reports that help managers be effective as well as the sales reps.
Right, and the next one for you, they're a small distributor with limited resources, and their question is, how realistic is it to implement and manage a CRM with AI?
Great question. The kind of like the frivolous light answer is it's very easy. What I'll say though is that there is a certain amount of commitment needed in terms of defining processes and defining expectations. The technology by itself will not address inconsistencies in processes or expectations. For example, as a sales rep or as a sales manager, if I haven't defined what my expectations are from a salesperson going into a new account, what questions to ask, what outcomes are potential, how to enter an opportunity without that level of enforcement, it is pretty challenging to drive adoption. Yes, some of the AI bells and whistles will bring sales reps to use the platform, but the true value, the downstream value of the CRM in terms of management and getting all of that great consolidated data is really challenging if there isn't a certain amount of commitment from sales management to foster a CRM culture. So I would say the technical part is the easy part. It's the business part that's a challenge to make sure that that things are aligned. And certainly at WebPresented, we love to have those conversations and be more than happy to take that conversation offline to talk through what would be needed.
All right, next one for you. How difficult is it to integrate a CRM with our ERP and existing sales tools? What does the implementation process usually look like?
Great question. So at WebPresented, we've built automatically, we pre-built connectors to most distribution ERP platforms. So for example, Infor suite of ERP platforms, Epicor, Eclipse, Epicor P21, Profit 21, other platforms like NetSuite, SAP, we've done Microsoft, we've done even things like QuickBooks, all those sort of like back-end systems that are very commonly used by distributors. We've got pre-built connectors. So we bring in sales data, we bring on invoice history, we can bring in real-time pricing and availability, customer synchronization, contacts, all of that information is pre-built. So the lift in terms of integrating with ERP is really WebPresented's strong suit. And that's very, very limited, very quick. All it needs is connectivity to the back-end ERP, depending on what the system is. If there's an API, there's some access requirements, and then it's very little time from the IT team needed.
All right. I feel like you might have already answered this a little bit, but if you could touch on it a bit more. They've tried CRMs before, but struggled with low adoption. How can they avoid that issue with an AI-enabled CRM?
Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, unfortunately, the failure rate with CRMs across the board is fairly high. What we found is that the key to adoption is we call it a give to ask ratio. If you're just asking your salespeople to provide data and you're not giving anything in return, it's like pushing a boulder up a hill. But if you can start giving back in the form of some of these insights and dashboards and automated reports and AI-generated content, then suddenly the whole paradigm shifts from this sort of like corporate enforced platform to more of like an app that they would usually enjoy using that's on their phone. And it's a game changer when it comes to adoption. I think one of those quotes from our customers was the AI tools are a game changer, and it really is. I would not bundle AI-enabled CRM alongside sort of traditional data entry CRM. It's entirely different, and the developments being made are a huge pace, and it's almost an expectation now from new sellers that, where's my CRM, where's my technology that's going to help me, where's my AI? So it is a huge difference.
All right. All right, it's not looking like we have any more questions in Q&A or in the chat. If people do have questions, where can we direct them to?
Yeah, sure. I'll reshare my screen just to show. So here's my contact information. More than happy to communicate with anyone on the call who wants more information or wants to dig a little deeper, provide a personalized demonstration, or even just a conversation around the feasibility. And I will say that we're very transparent. So, if it's not a good fit, we'll be very upfront. We want our customers to succeed, and we certainly aren't going to, push a CRM if it doesn't make sense. But please do feel free to reach out. Here's my contact information.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, James, and thank you, WebPresented, for joining us here for this webinar and sharing it with our members. The webinar itself will be shared out. Give us about 24 to 48 hours to get that recording out, sent to you via email, and it will also be up on the HARDI site. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, James, for stopping by, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thanks very much. Bye.